Miriam's Well is today just a narrow public beach south of the Byzantine city, but it is a place where history, tradition, and archaeology all came together. A Jewish legend tells us that this was the spot of Miriam's miraculous well, whose waters were said to be as sweet as honey, carrying biblical wisdom into the lake. This tradition lived on for centuries, and in the 16th century, Jewish scholars identified ruins here as belonging to Miriam's Well. At the southern end of the beach, archaeologists found about 36 column drums, some lying on the pebbles, others buried in the gravel. They aren't random. A survey showed that they once formed part of a plant structure. The columns were probably reused from the Byzantine city and set up here during the Fatimid period, around the 10th or 11th century. Most likely, they supported some kind of building that extended out over the water. A much larger feature of this beach is what the archaeologists called the long structure. It runs over 70 meters along the shoreline, right beside today's highway. At first glance, it looks like a massive wall. It was built with basalt and limestone blocks, bound with ancient mortar, and filled behind with gravel and small stones. But it's not straight pier. Instead, it bends slightly, and we now think it was part of a larger complex. For years, it was thought to be a harbor, but the latest studies suggest a different purpose. It was probably served as a protective barrier against the shifting water levels of the lake. In the middle of this long wall, there is a corner where it turns inward. At its northern end, the archaeologists even identify a doorway with two small steps leading down toward the lake, perhaps an access point to the water. The beach itself was always outside the Byzantine city walls. To the north, you can still trace the southern wall of the city, built in the 6th century under Emperor Justinian. This wall was nearly 3 kilometers long and enclosed the city on the landward side before descending all the way down to the lake at this point. One unusual detail is that the wall did not stop at the shore, it actually continued into the lake. This was no accident. The projection into the water was meant as defense, blocking the possibility of invasion from the beach at times when the lake's water level was low. The wall was strongly built with heavy basalt blocks on the outside and a core of stone and concrete. In some places, it was anchored more than 3 meters deep into the beach. So, in this one stretch of shoreline, we found a remarkable combination of tradition, architecture, and urban planning. A legendary well, reused Byzantine columns, a massive protective structure against the lake, and the fortifications of a great Byzantine wall.